bit snowy out here. We got about 4 inches of snow on Christmas, which was a lovely surprise to wake up to. We had icicles all over the roof. And of course, since it's holiday break, the kids are both staying up really late and sleeping in really late, so I thought I would take some of that time and head out to the office to start on something for Kaya's hope chest. I know I told some of you guys about how I wanted to create something for her when she goes off to college, so I was thinking of eco-printing a scarf for her. So Kaya's favorite colors are red and black. So I thought I would take this wool scarf, it's 100% wool, and dye it with madder root that we harvested from our garden last year and make it deep red, and then I'll eco-print over it. So the shawl weighs almost 7 ounces. Yeah, 5.6 ounces. So we'll do the same. And I thought it would be nice that we harvested this from our own garden. So when she goes off to college, it'll be something she can take with her. And red and black, she absolutely loves. I think she's got a little bit of purple in her closet, but it's mostly red and black. So I was thinking of knitting her a black sweater. I found a really beautiful one. I'll tell you guys about it in the future when I'm able to cast on. But it has just a little bit of color work along the bottom that looks kind of like a garden, so I thought I'd do that in gray and then the rest in black. I finished her black and red cardigan, and I'll put pictures of it up here because it turned out beautifully. It fits her really well, and she wears it all the time, which I'm very thankful for, because she's not always into knitted garments, but she wanted this one, and it looks really good on her and just fits her really well. So I'm really happy about that one. And then there was something else black that I was thinking of making, just lots of black and red things. And I'm also going to do a little mole, Molly mole, I can't remember. Again, I'll tell you when I cast that one on. Just kind of a little stuffed animal to take with her I thought would be sweet. I saw it on the Fat Squirrel podcast, and it's so flippin' cute. So I thought it'd be something she could just tuck in her bed at night when she's feeling lonely or something. All right, so 5.6. So there's the 5.6 ounces. It is almost all of this bag, but I was saving it for something special, and this is definitely special. And I know that we'll be able to get some other things out of it too. I'm just only putting the scarf in for this first dye so that it can be a super dark red, and then I'll throw some other things into the exhaust bath. So the first thing I'm going to do is just soak it in water till tomorrow. That's going to penetrate the roots because they're dry and brittle, and it's going to help to open up the fibers of the roots so that the color can be extracted more easily. So I'll soak them for at least 24 hours before I get them to their first simmer. So actually, I think I'm going to put these in a lingerie bag so that I don't have to transfer them after they're already wet, and that way I can even simmer this at the same time with these in there and not get them all caught up in the wool. So I just like to get these lingerie bags to put in cut up herbs and plants that I don't necessarily want to get into the dye water. And this I am going to put in a mordant bath with 10% of its weight aluminum sulfate and 5% of its weight of cream of tartar. And that's going to help so that the mordant, that's going to help so that the madder root bonds, but it's also going to create the right color, because you can use madder root without a mordant. It just creates more salmon peachy colors. The red will come partly from being mordanted with the aluminum sulfate. guys might remember, and some of you may not, that I ended my last podcast saying that I was going to be traveling for something and I couldn't tell you what because I didn't want to jinx it. But now I can tell you. On December 8th, the kids and I turned in our paperwork to become Italian citizens. We applied for citizenship through the Jure Sanguinis is what it's called, or the law of blood, which means that if you have the blood of an Italian, you can become an Italian citizen with specific rules, under specific rules. So, things like your ancestor can't have renounced their Italian citizenship at some point because then they can't pass it on. So both of my sets of grandparents on my father's side came from Italy in the early 1900s. My paternal great-grandfather, right? My father's great-grandfather's side. It's so hard to explain it. So I have two sets of grandparents, two sets of great-grandparents on my father's side. My grandfather's parents came from Sicily, from a town called Cerda, and my grandmother's parents came from a town called San Donato Val di Camino, which is not too far outside of Rome. Both of them came over in the early 1900s. Both of them had their children in America. Both of them were still Italian citizens when they had their children, which means their children are Italians in the eye of the law. And so that means that my grandparents' children, or my father, was also an Italian citizen, which means that I am an Italian citizen, which means that my kids are Italian citizens. But we have to claim that, right? Because we're only registered as American citizens because we were born here. So I collected over the past almost 2 years all of the paperwork going back to the birth of my great-grandparents on both my grandmother and my grandfather's sides, because I wanted to make sure I had everything I needed just in case. Because some places you hear it's super hard to do and they're going to be sticklers about any name spelling or any inconsistency, and some of them are like, well, it just depends on which Italian consulate you go to, and some of them are nicer than others and whatever. So I wanted to make sure I had all my T's crossed and my I's dotted. So I found all the paperwork. I worked with a lovely woman named Laura Lee Watson, who did the same thing years ago and now helps people work through this process. And I'll link her below in case any of you are interested in learning more about it. You can also Google Jure Sanguinis, and I'll link that spelling below so that you can find out more about it. There are a few other countries that have this law, but I don't know which ones they are. And it's not a rule for every country. It just happens to be for Italy, and my father was Italian. So anyway, I collected birth certificates, I collected citizenship certificates, I collected marriage and death and divorce and anything that showed either a change of name or a change of status in any way, all the way back to 1883, I think. And I was actually surprised how easy it was to find the stuff, because luckily nobody's changed their name. The only name changes that we had were things like Giuseppe to Joseph or Francesco to Frank. My great-grandmother, who everybody always has known as Carmela, I found out was actually Carmina, and I don't know if she changed it purposefully or what. I just found out there was a difference from her birth certificate. But other than that, it was really cool to look back at the history, where everybody lived, their names, what they did, because on a lot of the documents it would say this person was a tailor, or this person was a seamstress, or this person owned a shop, or whatever. And so that was really cool. And so I collected all the paperwork. Then I had to make sure that all the paperwork was consistent, that the dates were consistent, that the spellings were consistent. We found out that they had written, though they wrote my father's birthday correctly on my birth certificate, they had done the math incorrectly and had him as 31 years old instead of 30, that kind of thing. On another certificate, they had misspelled the last name, and if you go back to the original written one, you could see that it was just typed wrong. So I was able to get through a bunch of those. So once everything was consistent, then I had to get it apostilled. So I had to send it back to wherever state it came from and tell them it was going to be going to another country. And then they sent me a special certificate to say that, yes, this is a document of the United States that can go to Italy. Then I had to get it all translated, which luckily Laura Lee was able to do for me. Yeah, so like everything was signed, sealed, and documented properly. So that by December 8th, when we had to go to the consulate, which, by the way, as soon as I decided I wanted to do this, which I had heard about one day and then was like, that sounds really cool, I want that opportunity. As soon as I did that, I made an appointment with the Italian consulate. In North Carolina, the consulate that kind of rules over our area is in Philadelphia. Not every state has one. So I knew I'd have to go to Philadelphia. And in, I guess it was March or April of 2019, I made an appointment, and the first appointment that was available was December 8th, 2020. So even if you have all your paperwork, you might be 2 years out from making an appointment because they have, limited amount of space. Luckily, it wasn't canceled because of COVID. There were just extra measures to make sure everybody stayed safe. So Toby and I made the drive up. The kids didn't have to go. The kids were also going to be claiming their Italian citizenship since they are of my blood. They could also become Italian citizens. So I brought all the paperwork and was the first one to go up there at 9 a.m. and speak with one of the employees of the consulate. He was super sweet. We walked through it really easily from, consecutively from each person, my great-grandfather, my grandfather, my father, myself, and everything went fine. And I got my stamp number, and as of right now, all the paperwork is headed to Cerda, where all of it has to be documented. Because now that line of lineage needs to show that they come from Italy, that there is a space in Italy for them. So we will all be registered as Italian citizens in the city that my great-grandfather came from. Once all that paperwork is done in Sicily, then it can be sent back to Philadelphia, and then they'll let me know that everything's official and I can get my passport. But at this point, it's just paperwork, and hopefully there won't be any problems. There shouldn't be at this point. Toby, on the other hand, because he is not of Italian blood, can apply if he wants for Italian citizenship once I have my citizenship, but he has to take a test. He has to do a language test to prove that he knows enough Italian to apply to be an Italian citizen. But I don't, because I have the blood, though I've been studying it for a while and I'm having a lot of fun. Toby and I are only texting back and forth in Italian now. Even if I have to look up some words, it helps to be able to have someone to talk to. Like if he's at work and I have to send him a text and say, hey, I'm running to the store, do you need something? I will send it in Italian. Sometimes I just make up things to tell him so that I can write something in Italian and try and get better at it. But we're super excited. If nothing else, because it opens up opportunities for the kids. The kids being Italian citizens also means that they're also citizens of the European Union. They have voting rights. They have rights to healthcare and education. And I can't imagine anything better to give to them that then they can give to their children if they decide to. So, America's an amazing country, and I've loved living here. And I'm not saying, I'm closing the door on America or anything like that. I just feel like it's opening up a lot of opportunities. So we'll see where it goes. So that's what I had to do, and luckily I didn't jinx it. Everything worked out well.
We got a little bit of snow on Christmas Eve, and it looks lovely out here. It's our first snow of the year. But it is also dropped about 30 degrees, so it's a little too cold to play out here. It is currently 10 degrees, 11 degrees Fahrenheit, which is, it feels because of the breeze like about 2 degrees Fahrenheit, which I think is like negative 16 Celsius. It's really cold. So I took the chickens in last night, closed them all up, put a heat lamp in there, so hopefully they're staying all right. The only thing I really worry about is the rooster's combs, because the hens will tuck their heads under their wings to keep themselves warm. The roosters will not, and so sometimes their combs will get frostbite, so I'm going to check on them this morning. Look at the icicles. Oh, it's so I was going to say it's so quiet and peaceful out here, but other than the roosters. It's supposed to go up by about 30 degrees tomorrow, so it will probably melt pretty quickly. But for now, we've been having fun following tracks in the snow. Those are kitty tracks, I know that much. Alright, I have some treats to bring the chickens today. Some foods we had chopped up yesterday or leftovers we didn't finish. So, right here we are. Oh, goodness. So, see, I closed their door so they don't have access to the outside, so to keep them a little warmer. Whoop. You got all dumped on, sweetheart. But it looks like the rooster's combs are just fine. No swelling or darkness, so that's good. They did just... Oh, thank you. That's lovely. Here's their little heat lamp. So it's right above their roost, which helps them stay warm at night. They have all gotten so big. We are averaging about 10 eggs a day right now. So we're making lots of quiches and scrambled eggs and hard-boiled eggs and deviled eggs and giving lots away. There's Obsidian. Do you remember little bitty Obsidian? He's the rooster that we ordered. And there's Emerald over there, the one that we thought was going to be a girl. But he has turned out to be a wonderful rooster. So we're lucky to have two friendly, happy roosters. Hey, hon. The silly girls have decided not to lay eggs in their laying boxes. Instead, they're laying them in the side of the area underneath their roost. Which isn't horrible, except that it's also where they poop. So hopefully they'll keep their poop out of the corners. So look at that. It was cold enough to freeze the eggs. So the insides swelled up and cracked them. So 2 of them are gone. So you have to get the eggs you have to check for eggs often when it's cold. Because if they stay out here too long, they freeze.
Hey friends, so it is just after Christmas. It will be New Year's on Friday, Thursday, I don't know, I've lost all track of time. New Year's is almost here. But I have been having such a good time with the herb and spice tea swap that we did this year and last year. It's just so awesome waking up every morning, having my, quiet morning while everybody's still sleeping. I usually light a candle and watch the news or a podcast, do some knitting, and have some tea. And so every day for the tea swap in December, every morning I would open a new tea that was a trade from someone that was in my trade group, and it was just so comforting. I really enjoyed it. One of the other tea swappers in another group had mentioned that she even started a tea journal so she could journal about the different flavors and even, maybe purchase some of the ones that she really enjoyed. Some people made them from herbs in their gardens. Some people got them from local producers. Some people got packaged teas. There was all different kinds. And so it got me thinking about creating a tea kind of advent calendar for next year. But I wanted to spice it up a little bit, and I decided I'm going to do a hot chocolate spice advent calendar this coming year. At least that's the plan. I've already made 6 different varieties because I got really excited about it, and it's been cold and I've been wanting to make hot chocolate. So I perfected the base recipe, and now I'm adding different herbs each day or different spices or something to make a different flavor. So today I'm making chai hot chocolate, and I always make one, at least an extra one, so that someone else in the family can try it. So I'm kind of tweaking the recipes right now, and then I'll probably go through and try them all again and make sure they're all good before I open up for the Advent. I know that's like a year away, but
some of these things take some time, and it's a really good idea to experiment a lot if you're going to make a hot chocolate calendar, so you can make sure that every flavor is perfect, right? So I don't know, maybe I'll open it up sometime in the mid to late summer, and we'll just do pre-orders, and that way I know exactly how many people want them. But it's going to be fun. There's definitely going to be a mint one. There will be like an orange chocolate and lots of different herbs in there too. And I'm not going to tell you all because that'll give it away, because each day should be a surprise. So, and hopefully I'll do the herb swap next year again too, because I really did enjoy that. I absolutely loved, it felt like in the morning when I opened the tea that someone special was thinking about me. You know what I mean? Like that tea was wrapped up for me so I could open it on an Advent morning, and it just felt special. It felt, I guess in this time when we are all so isolated from each other physically, it felt really nice to have a little warmth in the morning and sip on a yummy tea. So I'm glad we did that. I hope you all enjoyed it if you participated. Oh, I am looking at something I don't think I've told you about yet. Let me show you. So this is a gorgeous eco-print. Let's see if I can get it without the lights in the background. This was framed by my dear friend Paige Miller, who is Frame and Fiber on Instagram and also has a frame and fiber shop in New Jersey. So I sent her a big piece of eco-printed raw silk, and she framed it for me. And I made it twice as big so she could cut off a piece for herself. But isn't that gorgeous? She picked out colors, as you can tell, the blue and the yellow really highlight some of the colors that are in the frame, or in the picture. So she picked those out to highlight them, and put the whole thing on a video so you can see the process of how she does it, how we picked the colors, and how she put it all together, which was really cool. So I'll link that below because I'm just thrilled with it. I absolutely love it. I love how it looks. I love being able to showcase this on the wall. So thank you, Paige.
You want to leave this place where we grew up, this old town, just put it all behind. Remember you and I would always find somewhere to hide when we were kids, so we could see and hear the water run. The river's gonna cry when you're gone. You miss the ones you know. I'll be here, hanging on, waiting for your call. Seems like that.
Ooh, look at the color now. It is a much deeper red on camera. More blue to the red, not so much orange. I'm gonna let it simmer for another 20 minutes or so, and then I'm going to put the scarf in. Yay! This is going to be so pretty. I may add a little bit of calcium because my water has very little in it, if any, and the calcium actually helps it turn a deeper red, and I want a nice deep cherry red if possible. So we'll see. I'll put the shawl in first and then decide if I want to add the calcium, and that will shift the color if I need it to. Okay, I think that is good. All right, it is very orange looking so far. So we'll see.
The river's gonna cry when you're gone, 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 gone. Gonna cry when you're gone, gone.
check this out, guys. Look at that color. It is, in real life, a very dark red purple. Like cherry juice. It's really beautiful. But the whole house smells like old cigarettes. For some reason. At first it smelled like roots, you know, just rooty. But now it smells like old cigarettes. So that's what madder root smells like if you gather it from your garden and simmer it on the stove. No, hold on. Okay, hold on, silly. It's just some leftover macaroni and cheese. Would you like some? Okay, guys, that's all I've got. Silly. There's another one. Lay all over. Here's one. Somebody's been running around the chicken coop. Those are little mouse prints. Look. What's up, sweetheart? Story to tell you. When I was 8 years old, the first year that EPCOT opened, I was living in Miami, Florida with my family, and my parents brought my sister and I to EPCOT as a summer treat. And the only thing that I remember from that trip was going on the Living with the Land ride. Now, I don't know how many of you have been to EPCOT, but there's all kinds of places to visit. There's rides, not the same kind of rides as you have really at the main Disney Magical Kingdom, but there's lots of stuff to explore, of course. What I remember is one specific part in the Living with the Land exhibit, which is basically about farming. It's kind of about how, you know, agriculture got started and the history of farming and what the future might look like. What I remember is about halfway through, it's like this lazy river ride, and about halfway through this ride you get to this section that is in this geodesic dome of a greenhouse, and it's filled with tropical plants. There's jackfruit, there's bananas, there's mango, there's stuff all over the place. All in these nicely manicured lines in sand, growing and heavily producing food. And I was just enthralled. I was like, that is so cool. Look at all of this bounty. I just loved it. And it's not like I was a starving child. I was well fed, but for some reason just looking at all of this and thinking of all the food and all of that, all of those good meals it would produce made me so happy. So you go from there into another
geodesic greenhouse that this time is filled with more temperate plants, lettuces and cabbages and stuff like that, as well as this massive hydroponic display. So they have these like huge tubes with strawberries and lettuce and herbs growing out of them, and I was just like, I want that so badly. I wanted my future house to be full of these green arrangements that I could just go up and pluck a strawberry from. I thought that was the coolest thing when I was 8 years old, and I still remember that, and I still think, you know, we have this one major beam in the center of our house because it's basically a round house. It's 16-sided, but it all spirals out from this center beam. And I wish I had the forethought when we put that in to figure out how to have it be some kind of supporting structure that then was surrounded by those, you know, hydroponic little pods that could grow food in the center of the house. How cool would that be? Well, I don't know that I ever expressed this excitement to my mom, but this Christmas she got me a little hydroponic stand, and I am so excited. I have to show you what it's growing right now.
So here it is. It's called the Aerogarden, and you can see there's a super bright light up top. But look, I've already got a cherry tomato. This is some dill, and inside there's a number of them that are already growing. This one's basil. This is a Thai basil that's growing. So these guys have been growing for 6 days. 6 days is when I plugged this in, and there's already so much going on in there. Those are chives. So it's all hydroponic. Check this out. Oops. There's water in there. See? It's just water, and these little pods, I'll take this one out so you can see. There's just like a little, I don't know, peat type, little mossy type pod with a seed in there, and then it just goes into the water. And every 2 weeks I put in a little fertilizer and freshen up the water, and that's that. And then this will raise up to 2 feet so that I can have taller things in there. My mom has one of these that she's been enjoying this past year. And hers, she already has a couple cherry tomatoes that are like 3 feet tall, so she had to put them in a pot and put them to the side in a window to grow. But she's been harvesting lettuce and herbs and all kinds of stuff from hers, and I just think it's so cool. This even has a fancy setup here that tells me how many days it's been since these have started growing and how many days till I have to put in fertilizer and change the water. If the water is full, I can adjust the light so it goes on at 6 a.m. with about 30-minute sunrise, and then it turns off with about a 30-minute sunset at 9, so it's on for 15 hours. It's so cool. I feel like I'm living in the Jetsons. So now I can have some fresh veggies and greens in the middle of the winter straight from my house. Have you guys ever wanted to do hydroponics?
Is that something you've ever been interested in? I don't know why it took me this long to get into it. There's even a hydroponic store not far from here. I feel like maybe I'm just barely keeping all the nuances of outdoor gardening in my brain, and there's so many times that I'm like, wait, which mineral do I need to add, and how often do I need to fertilize? Like, there's so many little details. It's one of those things that I just don't remember, which is funny because, like, with natural dyeing and herbalism, two other things I'm super into, those little details are right there, and I can pull them out like that. But it's like selective memory with the gardening. Every year I have to look stuff up again. So I think I just never got into the hydroponics because I was like, oh, that's another thing I'm going to have to put in my brain and figure out how it works. But now I've got this super simple setup and I'm really excited about it. So my mom's coming over in a couple of days, and we're going to look through the seed catalogs and pick out what things we're going to be growing, because she got back into outdoor gardening this past year and I helped her build some garden beds and stuff. So we're going to go through those together and pick out some seeds.
What's on your mind? I see that you are struggling. Why wasting time?
So a number of people have asked me in the past about these rings that I do my dyeing on. I use them because I can put a skein of yarn on it and keep it from getting so tangled when it's in the dye pot. I learned about these in a class years back from a woman her name is Jackie Attino Graff, and she goes by Forage Color on the internet. And she lives in Maine, so she knows about lobsters. And these are what's called a gate in a lobster trap. And basically, there's this thing that goes across the top of it and allows lobsters to go in, but then they can't come back out. And so you can find these online at marine stores as a lobster gate. I know a lot of people have asked about them, so if you're interested, just Google lobster gate trap, and you should be able to find it. I believe the company I usually get mine from is called Hamilton Marine, and they're pretty cheap and really easy. Make dyeing a lot more easy. So yeah, there you go.
But I keep falling down. You know you make this so hard, but around the corner is another day. You will see me fall, but I will wait for you to give it up. 'Cause there is some hidden love just for us.
I think the colors turned out beautifully, and there's still so much color in the dye pot, so I've got to go in and get some more yarn or something to throw in there because I want to soak it all up. But this was the first one that I did for Kaya's shawl, and it's kind of it almost looks like the shawl was gray first. It has that tone to it, like a gray undertone, but it's a beautiful like burgundy red, and these turned out like smoky rose, Victorian rose, is that what you call it? This one's the silk one. And this was some that I threw into the second exhaust bath, which turned out gorgeous. It's like, I don't even know, like rusty salmon or something. Such a pretty color. So, yeah, you can get all kinds of colors from Madder Root. Anyway, I wanted to say thanks for watching. I hope you guys are all doing really well. Happy New Year. Fingers crossed 2021 will be an amazing year for all of us. And I hope to talk to you guys soon. Take care.